Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter. Our guest today is Matt Ricketts, and this is Smart Business Moves.
Hola. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good. Matt, how are you today?
Doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. We're like T minus just a handful of days before Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, coming up.
Not even a week at this point, Tom.
I leave on Sunday. When are you guys leaving?
I leave tomorrow.
Oh, good for you. Wow, you're really
Cool.
But I have other stuff I'm doing, so that's why. I got stuff. What are we talking about? Systems at scale. But first, Tom, we have to do my new thing. Matt, tell us something. Tell us something that is not business related about you that people might not know.
All right. So I really love to swim. I grew up playing lots of sports, but I think of all the sports that I grew up playing, it's the last one that I can do without getting hurt. So that's like my favorite still that I
that list is getting shorter.
Oh man, it is getting shorter by the year. Like mountain biking, selling that, like pickleball, freaking dislocated my shoulder. I mean, just like I'm like a walking injury, but swimming I haven't hurt myself yet, and I'm still pretty fast. So I like to if there's like a group, it's kind of fun. So that lots of other hobbies, but yeah, that's probably people didn't know.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I like that. I never would have guessed that ever.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, I do swim, but like when you were a kid, you were like doing summer league, things like that.
Yeah, until like it kind of like we grew up playing hockey, and so we were good enough to probably, like my brother and I were probably good enough to be varsity swimming and varsity hockey, but it's too hard to do overlapping sports in the same seasons and stuff like that. They're both winter sports, believe it or not. So at least for high school.
Swimming, winter sport.
I know. Indoor pool, winter sport.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it kind of makes sense because the summer sports are all taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got it. All right. Well, that's cool.
It is a summer club sport.
Liz, before we get going, I'm going to go ahead and just drop this link into chat. I mean, one thing that all of us here have in common, we're all speaking next week in Las Vegas at the ISSA show.
Yep.
And if you want to go, it's still time.
I just bought my Big Bash ticket. They said it was going to close out, I think, last Friday. And I forgot. I was like, oh, darn. So I was.
Tell me what the Big Bash is.
What? I don't really know what it is.
You don't know, but you're going.
What they say it is that it's a big networking opportunity to meet people, and they're going to have food. They got food on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Curious, how much is the ticket?
I don't know. It's $150.
Wow. Okay, must be good food.
Well, I got like 5 people coming, so I don't know if I'm going to be buying Big Bash ticket on top of everything else, but like
5 people?
Wow.
So Angela and myself, and then my daughter is coming. I have 6 people coming, I think. So I'm bringing my 16-year-old. She wanted to come check it out and see what it's about. And then I have Mel, who's doing that house cleaner of the year thing. An operations manager to kind of keep track of Mel so she doesn't get lost in Vegas. And then Matt Totra, who's my controller, to have him learn and go to a lot of as many sessions as he can, and kind of really understand the industry better and meet some people.
That's cool. I love that. That's quite the expense there, though.
Yes.
Bringing a lot of people. So for the people that aren't bringing anybody, Matt, why tell everybody why it's worth it. I mean, it's worth it enough that you're bringing 6 people.
If you learn one thing, it generally, like, one idea is worth $20,000 or $30,000, for a small business. For a business our size, one idea might be $100,000, like that we implement. So it should pay for itself. And like, seeing some products up close and personal and seeing them is valuable. There's a lot changing in the industry right now. Technology, Tom's on that front, but also physical hardware that like we clean with, like robots and stuff like that. I mean, I would be going to kind of see how that is shaping the future and how you can be a part of that. There's a lot of value that's gained by going to these things. And I know it's an expense, but we went the first time when we were our second year in business, and I don't think I've missed many, but it's been a
I
good
haven't missed any since I started going. I didn't go to the first one. I didn't know about it. But since then, I've been to everyone since then, and I don't plan on missing any of them. I'm like you. I always get, I've never only gotten one thing. I always get multiple things that I'm like, okay, that's gold. That's gold.
Yeah, you talk to people you wouldn't otherwise meet. They're not on social media. They're not, they're not on Facebook. God bless them. Like, they're doing their own thing and not worried about other people. But when they're there, they're willing to share. And if you can, network and make some friends and peers. Again, it's how we became, all friends. And Joe Walsh and I still connect usually once a month, and met him at a trade show. Another friend of mine actually sold his business recently, so we're not really talking business anymore. But Greg got a pretty good exit, and he's doing his own thing now. He's outside the cleaning industry.
Yeah.
And there's people you just don't really have opportunity to talk to too. I'm super excited I just talked to Yusuf Memetoglu, and always look forward to talking to him. So I'm going to meet up with him at the convention.
That's great.
2018 is probably the last time I ran into Yusuf.
He goes to the show fairly regularly.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. The only one that I really remember missing was 2019. I signed up for that Ironman, did it that week, and it was like, I think it was the same week, or it was the week before, and like being on my feet all day in Vegas for like a week straight did not seem like a great way to rest before that. So there's something like that. I think that might have been the only one I've missed in a while.
Yeah, it is a lot of walking. You are going to be on your feet. There's no way around that.
But you're seeing stuff and you're doing stuff. It's not like you're just walking down the sidewalk going nowhere. You're on this massive trade show floor that you're seeing so much innovation in the industry, and you're talking to vendors, and your product mix will, in terms of the products you use in your cleaning business, will possibly change. You'll see some things that you've never seen before that you might introduce into your business. Not even to mention the educational sessions that get into the business side of your business. And they cost a little bit of money, but you think about, what one extra recurring customer means to you over the course of the year. You really don't have to do much with your business, or just a modest rate adjustment to get that money back many times over.
You know what? I actually pulled out some data from MaidCentral since I got on in the summer of 2018, but let's use 2019 as an example. So 4 years on MaidCentral, that's all I have basically, right? My average customer over that period of time is worth about $7,000. Like, I took all my customers, averaged them out, about $7,000. And so, like you said, one customer should pay for, if you can figure that out and you look at the lifetime value of customer, you should be able to make that justification.
Hey, Wendy. Glad to see you. I am on the innovation team that is judging this year. Cool. And I love that. So exciting. All of that.
Have you done your homework yet?
Yeah, I have.
I did that last year, and I mean, it was cool, but I mean,
it's a lot of
work.
A
little bit of time.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I just jumped in there to check it out, thinking I'd get it done like in an hour, 2 hours, maybe. So a lot of work. A lot of work there.
You spent more than 2 hours on it, I guarantee you.
Oh no, I know. I thought it was only going to be, hour 2 at the most, but no.
Each presentation is probably 30 minutes or something like that. Is it?
It was a lot of reading. Having to.
Oh, I thought they were in video. I thought they were in video form. Okay.
I did a lot of reading. So did I miss a whole bunch of videos? Oh,
You got to go back and watch the videos now.
No, I may be wrong. I was at the Innovation X Theater a couple years back, and I thought that's what they were showing all the videos, but maybe those were just promos that were made for like.
You didn't watch the videos, Liz?
Oh,
Tom, are you kidding me? Is there a whole bunch of videos? Did you do reading? It was reading, right?
No,
okay.
And filling in stuff. You have to fill in stuff.
I've never been on that, so I don't know. That sounds fun.
Yeah, well, it's exciting to see all the cool things. That was kind of my point, but now everybody's got me nervous.
What you get for signing up for stuff, though, but you know, you learn.
I'm a huge supporter of, like all of us are, right? Huge supporter of ISSA. Hey, y'all, help me out. How do you pronounce ISSA?
ISSA.
Was that it? It's not like people say ISA, ISA, ISA. I've heard all of these things.
I think they refer to it as ISSA when you hear like
that's what they say. Yeah.
The ISSA team, or if you hear, like John Barrett speaking, he's announced as, president of ISSA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've never heard it from any of those people that way either. That's why I was asking. All right. Let's move on.
They used to be the International Sanitary Supply Association.
Oh, wow.
And I remember back 20 some odd years ago, that was it. And they would just say ISSA for short, but they expanded and they got into building service contractors and residential cleaning and institutional cleaning and so many different things that they just dropped that part and just called themselves ISSA.
As much as I'm a huge fan, I don't know if I had to memorize all of that. I don't know. I might have to tap out. That's a lot.
So we're going to talk about scaling stuff today, right?
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Not only just doing it, but systems. Yeah. What do we mean, Matt, when we say a system?
I mean, when I'm thinking about it, it's just something repeatable that you can hand off to anybody that is part of the makeup of your business. It can be a lot of things. It could be a manual. It could be, the technology that underlies your business, right? Like if you're using MaidCentral or some other production managed software. I mean, I just went to a conference for all the other trades, and Service Titan was, a real big one there. There was a couple others that were kind of up and comers in that space for smaller companies. So that's a system, right? And there's systems within the systems on how to do scheduling and how to do, your finance. And, you and I had a coach at one point, Dan Martell, and he just did a book called Buy Back Your Time. He's real big on documenting things. And it's so we used to kind of think it was so simple. It's like, just get out Loom and record what you're doing. But it's like, that's a system, because then you can hand something off to somebody else. So that's an example. Financial system is a really great example. So if you have a KPI model of your business and what the inputs are, and we had a pretty cool little talk about KPIs not too long ago, and you're working on some cool stuff. I won't spoil that. You're going to show it at the show, but KPIs are at the heart of any of our businesses, and being able to understand what happens when one KPI goes up or down, and the relationship and the financial outcomes. So typically when I'm thinking of systems, I'm really thinking of three things. I'm thinking of a financial system where you can create predictable outcomes and you can predict what's going to happen. I'm thinking of management systems, right? Like how you manage people, how you get good outcomes. That's kind of like the Dan Martell documentation. And I'm thinking technology. I'm thinking MaidCentral. I'm thinking Service Titan. I'm thinking whatever, technology is the backbone for your business that creates scale. And technology is going to be such a huge investment that we're all making, because business my size, people always used to ask me, how many people do you have? How many people running your office? And, I think sometimes we have too many even still. But my office is kind of quiet right now this week. I'm like, but when we were at 2 million, we only had 3, and we have 6 now. And some of those positions are things like content creator, right? Controller, which which isn't, something I just wanted to take off my plate, which is I didn't want to have to do anything with tax compliance or like any kind of like minutia stuff, so, creating management processes for all those people would be it. So three things basically. So a lot there.
What you're describing, you're talking about numbers and you're talking about the size of your organization. You have been scaling your business, and we've talked about this before too. I know that, Matt, we have quite a bit that, a lot of times scaling a business and growing a business are used interchangeably, but they're different.
Yeah.
You can just keep doing what you're doing and work hard, and you'll be able to grow your business to a point, but then you're going to hit a wall. And then you're not going to be able to get over that wall until you do something structurally to change it. And I guess that's really where you're talking about building a better system, building new systems or additional systems to get over that wall. Now you're growing again using that system until, something runs out on the management side, or you need to do something on the technology side, or, the financial side. That's it. You scale, grow, scale, grow, scale, grow.
Some of it is really interesting. So I really recommend anyone read this book. It's sitting on my desk right now. This is like the second time I've read it. I've listed it on Audible once too.
Who wrote that?
Dan Sullivan with Benjamin Hardy. It's kind of a conglomeration. It's called 10X is easier than 2X. It's kind of a conglomeration of The Gap and the Gain and Who Not How, like all kind of jammed into one really great book. And it's really talking about what you just described there, where it's like, what are the leaps that you need to take to get from, point A to point B? Who are the people you need to hire? What's the mindset you need to be in to achieve it? Like, one of the things that I found really, there's a whole book that he wrote called The Gap and the Gain. And it's about how we as entrepreneurs don't really take time to reflect on how far we've come and improved. And we live in the gap of like, oh, we should have done more. So I used to race bikes and I did a triathlon, and I never ever did a triathlon where afterwards where I talked to somebody and they weren't like, oh, I could have done better. Like if I would have just done this, and they never like stop and they're not like, it was awesome. I mean, the experience was great, but I really could have been X, Y, Z. Like they're like in the gap already of instead of being like, wow, look how far I came. And we do that as entrepreneurs all the time too. Anyway, this book is about all of that, about shifting your mindset, about like setting bigger goals than you think possible. And then thinking about like, instead of like thinking like, so 2X is like, all right, if we just keep growing 10% a year, we'll do this. Well, what would it take for us to grow 40% a year, 50% a year? What inputs would I need to do? So like what makes that possible? And then you start thinking about that path is narrower, right? Like it's so easy to get distracted with all the things you could do to grow 10 or 20%. I'm going to start a carpet division. I'm going to start this division, but there's only like a couple or maybe one or two options to grow 40, 50, 60, 100%, So that's what I think you have to shift your mind to is like, what are the things I need to do to achieve that?
Okay, I love that whole thing. I can't wait to read this book. I have had it on my shelf for at least a month now, and I have not picked it up. So
it's a quick read.
Matt, for that.
I started it again. I started it again on Sunday, and I'm at page 154 of 250. Like this will be the second time. I was just looking just to remind myself. I read it like a couple months ago, and I read it too fast. And then I listened to it on Audible on a plane. And then I'm like, I'm going to slow down and just read it and take some more notes. And again, it's nothing you probably don't know if you've heard of Dan Sullivan and read any of his stuff, but it's good. It's,
Well, that's the shelf I have it on. I have it on an Amazon shelf. Not Amazon, Audible.
Audible shelf. Okay.
So yeah. All right. So I'm going to listen to it. I'm excited. So I wanted to ask a question here. I got two questions.
Sure.
First, Tom, you were talking about, you both kind of talked about a little bit, the difference between growth and scale. Hey, Sam, good to see you. Can you give like a definition? Where does growth become scale? Like how are you defining that?
I don't know that I have the definition other than what we just talked about. It's just like scale is about setting just much larger goals. I mean, I'll share with you our 3-year, what our, org chart looks like in.
As you're pulling that up, if you could think about it as like a path with walls on it ever so often, and you can move forward, you can move upward, you can grow, but at some point you're going to hit a wall, and your organization is not going to allow you to grow anymore. For example, when you first start off, you might be the only employee, and you can grow cleaning homes yourself till you get to the point where, if you're cleaning 2-3 homes a day at max, and you're doing that 5 days a week, no more than 7 days a week, you're kind of done. You grew, but now you're not going to grow anymore. You hit a wall. So you're going to have to hire somebody else.
That's a good
You can do that until you then have to hire a supervisor, and then you have to hire somebody to answer the phone.
So go slower for the stupid among us. So let's
stop that.
No, I'm not getting it yet. You're gonna have to you have to slow it down. So you're growing until you're okay, hold on, y'all. So you're growing, now you're working 7 days a week, right? And you're working every day.
Let's say you're working 5 days a week. 7 days a week's disturbing, but you're doing all you can in a normal work week.
5 days a week. And you're working all the hours. You're doing all of the stuff. Now, the next level, you have to scale.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? So now you're going to have to scale your business so that you can then again grow. Is that how you're using this word, scale? Okay. All right. So that's not the traditional version of scale. That's not what people typically think of as scaling their business.
Well, look at this. If I want to just be in St. Louis, like what we're going to look at is an org chart that'll work for me just being in St. Louis. So this is us for the next. This is us for the next 12 months. Okay, I can't really zoom it in without it getting too wonky here, but just I'll have to move around on it. But I'm sitting here kind of in the CEO, COO seat. Like everybody's always like, oh, I need an integrator. Well, I'm a pretty good integrator. I'm like when someone is like the president of a company, like they're the ones that is like, setting the direction, the tone. Like I'm sitting in that seat today. And I'm also sitting in this marketing manager seat over here. So, Tom was talking about you're sitting in multiple seats. I still sit in a couple of seats within my organization, right? This model will take us up to 10, maybe even 15 million locally. I believe that. And so what we have is we've got a sales manager. I'll zoom it back out a little bit. These CERs, which is kind of like what a CSR is for other companies. It's a customer experience rep is what we call them. Instead of customer service, like we just have a different term for it because service is what you do. Experience is what you want to create, right? So it's just a different way that we feel about it. Marketing manager is open, but I do have a content creator. I have a controller, and he's also sitting in the recruiter and HR seat as well, right? So people are sitting in multiple seats. I've got an operations manager, 2 field managers. And then what's different that you'll see about our organization is these field supervisors. That's our trainers, but they have more responsibility than that. They have leadership management accountability. They're the ones in the field that are training new hires, but they also have a pod of people beneath them, 10 to 15 technicians, geographically located. We're exploring some functionality within MaidCentral with the office functionality, if you're a MaidCentral user, to group all of our employees that live in certain areas into a pod in kind of a pseudo office. We'll kind of put it at a nice gas station. Quick Trip's kind of the nice gas station here, where they'll meet once a week. And these pods, each pod will have a van loaded with supplies and equipment. And instead of going back to the office back and forth, they'll have a quick meeting there. And structurally, this allows for a very remote workforce to feel more connected, to have a team within a team, right? So we believe this structure is fundamentally the structure that'll get us to here in the next 3 years, which would be about 120 technicians, maybe a little bit more, somewhere around here and around somewhere between 11 and 13 million is what we're talking about. And so I'm talking about big numbers that they sound like big, but they're not in the grand scheme of things compared to what other service industries have been able to do. We talked about Tommy Mill a little bit. Garage doors was like an incredibly fractured industry before Tommy came along and did some things to kind of, scale up in Phoenix. And then, I have no clue how he has so many locations. That's a whole nother thing to learn. But this structure will not scale past one. This is a one location structure, maybe two locations, because we're going to break our office into West County and like that is more, that's about redundancy. So we have extra equipment. Like I'm going to rent a secondary space so that I have a second hypochlorous machine in another location and yada, yada, yada. But this doesn't scale past that. I don't have the right people, right? I don't have the right leadership team necessarily to do the multiple offices.
Mm-hmm.
So
the way Jim Lampy, and he, we did a piece in Cleaning Business Today years ago, and he came up with barriers to growth that you had to scale over, and just hiring a new employee could be considered growth. But you get to the point where you've got to hire a supervisor. Well, that's new for us. I hired my next door neighbor and my cousin, and now I've got 5 people and I can't do all of that. I got to add a layer to my organization. For some of us, we can't figure out how to do that and make that work. And that's a barrier that we're not going to grow anymore until we do. But if you do, then you can go ahead and hire more people and maybe get another supervisor. But at some point, you're going to have to hire a manager to, deal with the supervisors who's dealing with your cleaning technicians, and the same with some of the other roles. So you can see there's several layers of organization that Matt has, and arguably each one of those could have represented a barrier that he had to scale in order for him to continue to grow. And at some point, he's going to hit a wall that this organization isn't going to support it. He's going to have to figure out how to do something with this organization he's never done before in order to get over that barrier and keep going.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah, I love that. And I like that definition really a lot. I feel like with that definition, everybody can be looking to scale. You don't have to be a big company. You can be whatever size you are. You can be like you said, Tom, you could be a solo entrepreneur.
And to do it well, you want to anticipate where those walls are going to be and make the changes while you're still growing. You don't want to hit a wall and be flat and stagnant and then say, okay, now what am I going to do? You need to, ideally, you anticipate that and you're building the organization. And at the same time, you have to be doing this on the financial side. Your whole financial in the numbers, the KPIs have to be more sophisticated as you go along. Starting out, you just got to find something to clean, right? You need to turn some cash. You need to get some money in the bank. And then you hit a wall and you really need to start getting better about pricing and the finer points and maximizing the lifetime value and revenue out of a customer. And you go for a while longer, and then you have to figure out, how am I going to lower my cost of goods sold, the payroll to revenue, and actually start maximizing the profit that I'm getting off of. And you don't have to wait till you hit the wall. If you can figure that out and get that right before you hit the wall, you can grow longer before you can scale and grow at the same time if you can anticipate the changes you have to make and make them. And the technology is the third part, but you get it. As Matt said, it's technology, it's the management of the organization, it's the financial, and you'll hit a wall in one and you're stuck until you fix it, or you anticipate it and you fix it before you get to it.
And this model will serve me I think this model would serve any location, but then I'm going to need more sophisticated financial controls for a multiple location business if I decide to go that direction. And I really don't know that I will right away. I mean, it does not feel like there is a lid on what we can do in terms of like generating new business with marketing dollars. It's more painful than the old way of like, just SEO, and you get some leads and you get some referrals. There's a book that Tom and I both like as well. I'm going to keep talking about books. Predictable Revenue is a great example of that. Now that's a lot about outbound, but it's about creating a marketing system that is like, all right, if we put in this input, then I get this output, right? There's some painful things about growing this fast, right? So one of the things that's kind of painful is the attrition rate. You're going to attract people that are going to try you out, and no matter how good your quality is, and we're at like I'll show you, this is behind the scenes. I'll show you our Q4 scorecard so far this month or so far this quarter, but we are, around a 55% average response rate with a 90. Well, I'll tell you what, I've got it calculating 54 with a 98.2. So if you're using MaidCentral, that's pretty hard to do. If that means you're really getting mostly the top scores and then maybe some threes. And it's very rare that you're going to have anything less than that. So
That's killing it.
Yeah. So but that's how pushing that. So that org chart we looked at, that's about pushing responsibility down and making your technicians, like giving them layers of responsibility. So you've got those field managers. Well, their job is really to train the field supervisors, who are your trainers, who are like your 10. They're your 10%. That's your A players in your company that are like really committed, and they're willing to take on more responsibility. And you pay those people really well. People think it's crazy what I'll pay these people, but like a lot of them are making $55,000, $56,000 to be a supervisor for me. And it's still profitable for us because we're still maintaining, some of you all have better direct labor than I do. Our target is 41%. We're below that. We're right at 40% for the quarter. So I know some of you would argue that you would keep that lower. I would argue that it's worth maybe pushing that a little bit more than you think, but not too crazy, because you want to have the money left over to invest in other things, right? You want to keep your direct labor costs, in line, but your field supervisors are like the heart of your company. Most of you call them trainers, whatever you call them, they're the most valuable people you have in your company. Even some of them make more than they make more than our CERs for sure, than our starting office employees.
Ben, you mentioned pushing responsibility down in the organization. That's an important concept. Could you explain a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah. So, with technology, you can push things down, like checking in and checking out of jobs. We used to have, and then logging that in your software. We used to have, sheets that they would have to, like, this goes back a long time because I've had technology for a while, but they would turn in a sheet and you'd have to do that, right? Some of you all might still be doing that, but you can use technology to push down simple responsibility like that, where they're checking in and checking out of jobs. Like, that's an example of using technology to push responsibility down. We're pushing responsibility down in the fact that everybody owns a number. As far as a management process, that's those field service supervisors. They're the ones holding a weekly meeting with their team. So instead of it being me or Angela or even another manager holding that meeting, they're responsible for holding a meeting. We might give them the content, maybe even record a quick video for them to show, but we've pushed that down. We've pushed down responsibility down to like the dispatchers or the CERs for, doing a lot of the weekly trainings and creating videos on that. We've moved a lot of our videos into like almost like a TikTok kind of format, where we're sending out 3 videos a week that they have to respond to. And some of them are about training, some of them are about culture. But as far as, everyone has a number basically, right? Everyone has a responsibility. So if we go back to that org chart, right? They train the trainers. They have to have a quality score of this. They retrain deficient staff. Actually, if we go back to the new one, it's going to be service delivery, customer service, but they also have responsibility in terms of write-ups, reviews. You can't have one manager giving 50 reviews when you get to our size, right? So by doing this pod system, you have a field supervisor who has 10 to 15 direct reports. We're stretching it a little bit right now with that. I think 15 is too many, but we're trying to use technology to stretch that out so we don't have to have as many of these field supervisors. We're trying to see how much they can handle. 15 may be a little too many. 12 might be the sweet spot where we get a little bit more than 10 out of them. I've heard Liz, you've told me a number before on the maximum number of direct reports people can have. What is it, 10?
We say 12.
12?
And remember, Tom, Derek used this system way back in the day. Remember that? He started moving over to this pod system. I know he doesn't do it now because he, follows Debbie's system. But I remember that he was using the system with some pretty impressive results. And he was obviously much smaller than Better Life Maids. But
I don't know. I mean, but put it for time. So watch my language, but Sharon Tinberg, she might be listening. I mean, time, put a time factor in. Sharon's business was bigger than mine. I don't know what she was doing. So, you go back for like number of employees. I think she was billing $25 an hour. I'm billing 60, right? Like Sharon would have a $6 million business today if she was doing the same things, So yeah. People have figured this out before. This is not groundbreaking. I'm looking at a lot of other industries. I'm looking at like how we can do this with technology. Technology is really important in this sense that like you can push work orders, down to the technicians. You're not printing stuff out in the morning and handing them stuff. We've all moved past a lot of that stuff that we used to do, right? And the technicians are more and more responsible than they've ever been. It's got to be a different tech than you had even maybe 5 years ago. If they can't open
Are you learning things in other industries that the residential cleaning industry could benefit from?
I think some things that they're doing, the way that they look at the value of growth, like they throw the word EBITDA around all the time, which means to me that they're using a lot of debt to grow and they're not scared of it, right? So they're backing the debt out of their profit numbers. And I'm a little scared of debt, so I haven't really gone down that road of like, gobbling up companies with debt, right? But they're definitely consolidating and they're paying each other well to buy each other's businesses because they see the synergies that they can do. But because they do everything so similarly, that works. But because we all do things so differently, that doesn't seem to work. I haven't seen anybody do it well yet. Now, if somebody's running a solo model and prices their jobs right and is doing a lot of things right, they might. There might be some overlap, but
once you get the model down, though, do you think that you might be taking on some debt to like 10x this?
I definitely think so. So I signed up for a coaching program in the HVAC and plumbing and trade space and garage door space, like with a lot of those guys. And I just want to learn from them. I want to be in the room with them and see what they're doing. I don't know that I know enough yet to say what I know yet.
And you're doing that not because you want to get into the HVAC business. You're doing it to learn their best practices to apply it to your house cleaning business.
Yeah, they're spending a ton of money on money on branding, and they're spending a ton of money on marketing. And I want to see the channels. And they're really big on direct mail still, like big on direct mail. And I'm like, I need to see why and how. And I have no idea how direct mail works, right? And it seems so old fashioned, but it could be 95% of some of these companies' businesses as far as their new customer acquisition.
So, Liz, I mean, we've talked about this before, not specifically the direct mail piece, but the idea of what can you learn by looking at other industries, hearing speakers who don't know anything about the residential cleaning world, but they know stuff that maybe we don't could benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that this kind of reminds me of is we do this thing in the circles called forum, and you do some version of it, I think, in EO and some of these larger networking groups where you get together with people that are outside of your industry, and they share a core problem, and then everybody sort of shares their experience around this core problem, and you get more from the people who aren't trying to give you the specific answer to your exact example when it's more industry outside of your industry and it's the core issue that's being addressed. You get a lot more from that than when somebody just answers your question, right? How are you doing blah, blah, blah? And somebody says, oh, we do blah, the answer. You just don't get the results from that you do.
I agree. And then sometimes we say stuff to each other that like, and then people are like, we think like, oh, that's so basic. Or we're like, you know, like, of course I do that. And then we might even take offense to each other. Like, but if like someone's looking at it from a fresh perspective, we give them the benefit of the doubt. And then we might actually hear what they're saying better. Like there's, you know, even if it is something like, have you thought about a referral program? No, I've never thought about, but then they'll give you like the experience share of how like they did it. And you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like you will give them the benefit of the doubt instead of shutting people down. Like so quickly, you'll actually listen to them and hear them with a fresh perspective. So I am in a group called Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's a good investment. I mean, I've got my money's worth out of it. You become close to these peers, a lot of good education, a lot of good speakers and things like that. That you know, we actually have in St. Louis. We've got the guy that wrote. Is it sitting there on my back shelf? Never lose a customer again, never lose an employee again. Joey Coleman.
Oh, yeah.
He's coming to St. Louis in December or January. So we just had a book club where he, you know, zoomed in, and you know, that was a good experience. I mean, he's like, you know, pretty fun. I mean, I've read his books, you know, but it's good to be able to, you know, to be in the room with him, and like maybe, you know, maybe I'll actually take it a little bit more seriously if, but I actually get the benefit of handing a lot of these books off to other people. Like, so Never Lose an Employee Again, Matt Totra in my company is reading right now. And he's in charge of reworking our, you know, first 90-day experience. We have this really great 30-day experience with our company, but we're like, how do we stretch that into 90 days? Like the first 90 days, like creating a really great experience for them. And
for your new team members,
yeah. So never lose an employee again. Like creating that first. Joey talks about it as the first 100 days. We have the ability to track it as the first 3 months in MaidCentral with some of the turnover reports. So we've got it broken down into the same way that we're matching up periods in MaidCentral. But yeah, I think that the ideas you get from others, especially when they're not doing things the same way that we have.
Yeah.
And our industry is a little behind the curve on a lot of stuff. So
it's just some of the finer points. I mean, a lot of the things that we do, we learn from other people in the industry, and that's fine. You know, I heard somebody say something the other day that oftentimes innovation is just plagiarism that hasn't been caught yet. That, you know, if you go outside the industry to look at, you know, how do they market or how do they, you know, manage, you know, HR issues or, you know, fill in the blank. A lot of times they're doing the same thing, but they're doing a little bit differently. That could make a meaningful improvement in your business.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it a lot, like if you go outside of the industry often enough, then you can open your mind to these other ideas and see how they will be able to be adapted for your industry. If you only do it a little bit, you get stuck in this mindset of, no, that's not the way we do it in the cleaning world. That's not how we do it. That's not the right way. But bottom line is, there's a lot of right ways out there to be running businesses, and there's a lot of right ways to be running service businesses. I work with a couple of companies here locally that are considered small businesses at $22 million. I'm thinking of one in particular. It's a roofing business. That's a small roofing business, right? So, but you're bringing in some big money there, but not really in that world. So the same kinds of ideas.
And I think if you're trying to do something different, right? Like, so this is our 10-year target, right? 30,000 lives made better annual, 1.2 million hours saved for our customers, $25 million in annual revenue. That's a big target. I actually think we're going to shoot past it. I think we'll actually blow that away. I think we actually might hit 13 in 3 years and then be like, this seems inconsequential. But I don't know. But here's the thing. I don't know the path to get there, but that's okay, because I'll find the right people, the right the right knowledge along the way, other people that have built the frameworks in other industries. I don't have to do all this and think about all this on my own. I don't have to be a genius to do this, right? I have to find the who's, right? The people that have done it before me, right? To quote Dan Sullivan for the 15th time this call, I've got to find the right who's, the right people. Tom got me thinking about that. I was my own roadblock a lot in my job at MaidCentral doing sales. It's like, and he was encouraging me to hire some people and do that. And I couldn't get out of my own way sometimes because I was so good at a job, right? We had because we're so good at something, but that's the problem that we face. And so so I'm a really good marketer, but I have to hire somebody and take that off my plate. It is not where I should be spending my days. And I had a really good opportunity to hire somebody probably last year, and she might not have taken the offer, but who knows? And I didn't make an offer, and I passed it on, and I kind of strung her along for too long, and she took another job. And I regret that. And I look at that, and I'm like, how much further could I have gotten my business? How many more leads could we have gotten if we would have brought a lot of our marketing internally instead of agencies, and utilizing our own resources and building that internal knowledge, because I've done it through agencies. I haven't done it all myself, and we need to bring some of it in house.
I am getting on my phone. I've got to get out to my car. I got to head to an appointment, so you'll see me you'll lose me here, but I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Hey Matt, Wendy likes the idea of the employee engagement process, stretching it from 30 to 90 days. She says she'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, I can tell you what we do at 30 days. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like.
You haven't figured that part out yet, huh?
I mean, I'm not the one authoring it. So Matt has shared with me some of his ideas. It's kind of confusing because there's a couple of Matts on my team. I was on a call the other day where there were 4 Matts. I was like, oh my God, nobody was that creative in 1980, were they? Anyway, so what we kind of do now is when someone starts, there's a lot of touch points, right? Like at the 1 week, there's a sit down with the management team where they actually review their training so far. A 2 week where one of the managers goes out, meets them, takes them out to coffee in the like with their trainer, meets them at a quick trip, buys them coffee and talks about them, gives them a chance to do this. They review their training. They get their pod shirt at the end of 2 weeks where they're assigned to their pod. So it's another colored shirt. At 30 days, they get a jacket.
Does every pod do the pods have different colored shirts?
Yeah, we do that so that they can on training days, they can all be kind of in their own little uniform, but we allow them to wear that as another shirt that they can use. So
they're not always wearing the same color shirt every day.
No, it's just sort of mostly for the training days, but it's sort of just a nice kind of team building thing. If they want to wear it on their pod meeting day, that would be nice. So then as we think about it, how do we extend that out? We've got some jackets that we give at 30 days. And part of why we give the jacket at 30 days is because we don't want to give it at day 1 and then they quit and we gave them a $35 jacket. I mean, we're just being cheap, but it's it's spreading it out a little bit.
Something? Yeah.
And then we give them a hat is what we're thinking. We've got these nice.
Do you tell them up front that they're going to get these things and it's the awards at certain times, or you just surprise them?
Just surprise them. Just sort of hey, here's this. And we document the process in Basecamp. I don't want to just open my Basecamp up and who knows what's open, but the Basecamp is our project management software, and I'm thinking I can see what tab I'm in. Yeah. So we're working on some new vehicles for pods.
What brand vehicle is that? Have you selected a van to?
A Mercedes Metris, because it's the only one we're going to be able to order into next year. It's the only small van that we can still order. So we're going to be fancy and have Mercedes.
Whoa. Is that a EV?
No, it's not. It's not. We looked at the Ford EVs. My employees felt they were too big. They were not designed for the pedals was really the main thing. Was the pedals weren't adjustable, and if you're under 5'4", it just felt like you're stretching too much.
Safety issue. So is that a cargo van or a passenger van?
Cargo van. Yep. It's
okay. So you're going to put shelving and stuff in it.
Yep. But under people, let's see. There's probably a project in here somewhere that kind of describes exactly what happens when we hire somebody. So I might not even have access to it because it's not my business, right? But it's anyway. There's a project and a checklist for every new employee, and we're gonna build that out a little bit. And so again, it's about documenting it and being able to redo it. So every time we hire a new employee, a project is created where we're making sure these touch points are being delivered on time. So you can make a repeatable process, with whatever software you use. But this is Basecamp. This is one of my favorites. I learned this from time on MaidCentral, is that simple is better sometimes, because I can invite people to this software and within minutes they can figure out what they need to do in it. Where I've used project management software where it's like you need like a tutorial for like 2 hours to figure out,
Right.
How to use this thing. So simple is good. It also integrates with all kinds of stuff if you aren't using it. So I know we're getting towards the end here. I can stop sharing. And
Robin has a question for us. He is asking about the vans. How are they going to be used? Are they mobile supply offices where you meet teams at their homes once a week?
There'll be a meet once a week at like a local gas station, or like we call them Quick Trip here or whatever. But then they'll be in the same area as all their employees. So if you're familiar with MaidCentral, the colors are kind of like the same colors we overlay on a map, right? So when you're using MaidCentral, you're using like the zones. They represent the zones we're in. So that blue van will always be scheduled in the blue zone. So if somebody does need something during the day.
So you're wrapping the vans in different colors?
No, the vans will all be one brand color.
Okay.
But that's, they've asked about that, and we actually had a design for that, but we felt that like the pink and green of our brand is so recognizable that it didn't make sense to move away from that for for something that's that's an internal.
External, from a branding standpoint, you want to be consistent.
Yeah, like if you see that pink and green locally together, that's us. If you've been in the market for cleaning, you've seen it before. So we wanted to stick with that. But we talked about it. There's some cool vans coming out that are consumer vans from their EVs from Volkswagen. They're bringing back the van again in like different cool colors: blue, yellow, orange, green, maybe pink. And we wouldn't even need to wrap them; just put your logo right on them, and those vehicles would stand out. But we decided against it.
Well, you could always just change the color of your mirrors. So
Right.
The blue team has blue mirrors.
That's not bad.
That wouldn't hurt anything.
There's something that can be done that would make it more pod friendly, I'm sure. So,
Liz, you okay?
It's my phone, Tom. It's not.
What did you
me.
hit? Do we need to call 911?
My magnet apparently is not as good as I had hoped.
are you driving down to Portland to rescue some people? No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm going north. Thankfully.
Okay.
Glad I'm heading north.
Robin wants to know if you considered outside storage for supplies.
I have, and we may still, when we're dividing our company into East and West. But the reason I'm probably going to just try and find an office where I can hook up. I want to have a secondary hypochlorous acid machine in another location. If you aren't familiar, I use on-site generation. Some other folks that are probably on this call use it. I know Tom does. I got the idea from him. And we've gotten our money.
Robin Murphy actually was the cutting edge on that technology. She introduced the vendor we use to me.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's been very effective, very cost effective, and I think it's a great product that comes right out of the machine. Anyway, I'd like to have a second machine, but I'd like to move it out away from this office, right? Have it in a secondary location. I'm not just doing that to like pay extra rent. Like it'll be a little bit of a hit to like, we bought this great new office, but I'll probably staff a little bit too. Believe it or not, we bought this office and we're kind of like, shoot, we should have rented because we've grown so much in the last, like we did not anticipate doubling and then doubling, like it's, there's growing pains to growing this fast where you're thinking two-dimensionally still about like office space and things like that. And I would have not have bought this office now if I would have known what I know now. I love this office. It's been great for us, but it's, but that's where
but you're in a position where you could either lease it out or you could probably even sell it and make money on it if you wanted to.
I got a competitor across the street. She's joked with me before. She's like, if you're moving, I'm buying. So
there you go.
It'd be all set up for her. She'd be all set. So no, I think I'd keep it and we would just do the secondary office and do something flexible with that. So it's there's a lot of options, right? Take the
Robin's on the van thing. Do you take the supplies to the techs closer to their homes?
Yeah, the pods are basically like designed around where they live if we can, So yeah, it's all about reducing drive time. It's about we believe that per week for every 10 employees assigned to a pod, we will save $800 in drive time of office trips for every 10 employees per week. So the pods, the vehicles, the system, it should pay for itself. And even if it doesn't, then I've got 6 more rolling billboards going around, getting 100,000 impressions each per day. Eyeballs seeing our brand in a big pink van with, one of our techs, bigger than life on it in our uniforms. And,
in the economics of having each one of those techs drive to your office once a week where you're paying them for that time, and that's time that could be generating revenue versus a supervisor who could also be inspecting and kind of doing a one-on-one coaching session. I mean, it's a more efficient use of your labor.
I think
a better return on your human capital.
We'll know a lot more. I mean, this is experimental. We'll know a lot more in a year, and I'll be happy to share some of the statistics. What I'm saying is what we believe because we haven't fully tested it yet. And I think, experiments can be expensive and you can get them wrong. I think we're right here. I've seen this in kind of some of the other labor models I've been looking at where they kind of divide their labor into these teams of geographic teams. And there's a big company here in town that's like in the HVAC plumbing space. This is, something I might have seen that they do. I was like, I didn't come up with this on my own. Like it's, like you said, it's like, what is it? You've got great quotes around copying ideas for other people. It's like,
it's plagiarism when you're in college. It's best practice when you're in business.
Yeah. And so we'll see how it goes, Robin. I don't know all the answers yet. I'm hopeful that this is something that, reduces employee turnover because they're driving to the office less, costs us less money of time and equipment runs. Tom said 1 time a week. Yeah, that's hopeful. Most of them come 2-3 times a week, right? So even if they only go to their pod meeting once a week, they can call their pod leader, and that pod leader is going to be within a couple miles of them instead of, if they're on the wrong part of town, that could be a 40-mile round trip drive that we're paying for if they lost a vacuum or something like that. So there's a lot of economic benefits to it. I'm happy to share in Vegas if you're there, Robin.
So, wow, we are at the top of the hour. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to call this a wrap for today. I'm dropping the link to the ISSA show in chat one last time. It's not too late to register. If you haven't signed up, do so. Come on out. See Matt, Liz, myself, and a few hundred other people from the residential cleaning industry that would like to hang out and learn from each other. We're not going to be here next week because we're going to be in Las Vegas. So you won't find us live streaming next week. And the Wednesday after, we're not going to do it because that's Thanksgiving Eve and we're going to be doing family stuff then. But we'll be back the following Wednesday. I got to bring a calendar out for that because I can't do that in my head. I guess that'll be the 29th of November. So we're taking a couple weeks off. We'll be back November 29. Matt, thank you. Thank you so much, man. It was good having you back. It's been a minute, and this is good stuff. Hopefully, we can take this and apply it to our businesses and scale.
Hopefully I can too.
Okay, so we're going to call it a wrap. Y'all take care. We'll see you in a few weeks. Bye bye.